Hello, and welcome to the Grammar Corner, the part of the channel where I tell you things about English grammar you may or may not know, but probably forgot because no one really pays attention to English class anymore. Today, for the first episode, we're going to talk about pronouns. There are 8 different types of pronouns that I'm going to be talking about in this video. There are personal pronouns, reflexive pronouns, relative pronouns, reciprocal pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, interrogative pronouns, indefinite pronouns, and possessive pronouns. This is going to be a rather long video, so you should be able to click anywhere on this screen right now, and it'll take you to the part where I talk about that particular subject. Otherwise, you can go to the description and you should be able to skip ahead at any time. Before we get started with the different types of pronouns, there's probably a few things that you should know, like, what is a pronoun? A pronoun, simply put, is a word that replaces or refers to a noun. Think of it as the professional version. It does the same job with less letters and usually less confusion. Let's look at the sentence, Jimmy bought 67 watermelons, presumably on his way to math class. Now, if we didn't want to use Jimmy's name, and I can totally understand that, I would want to remain anonymous too, we can just replace Jimmy with he. He being a pronoun, we can just say he bought 67 watermelons. That's how pronouns work. They replace things and let you remain anonymous when you buy absurdly large amounts of watermelons. There are 2 tenses of pronouns, singular and plural. Here is a chart for your eyes. If there is one thing that is being replaced, then you need a singular pronoun. If there are 2 or more things being replaced, then you need a plural pronoun. Bonus knowledge, an antecedent is the thing that a pronoun replaces or refers to. Let's start with personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are the ones you probably recognize. They include he, she, we, us, you, them, y'all, he, her, all those ones. And they're used to replace subjects or objects in a sentence. So Sally gets replaced with she or her, Billy gets replaced with he or him, and my annoying voice gets replaced with it. However, there are 2 different types of personal pronouns, each used for different reasons. There are subjective and objective pronouns. Here's another chart for your eyes. Subjective pronouns are used to replace the subject of the sentence. So let's look at the sentence, whales terrify me. That is not an exaggeration. Whales are scary. In this sentence, whales is the subject. So if we wanted to replace it with a pronoun, we would need a subjective pronoun. Look at the chart. What do we use to replace a third person, multiple whales? They terrify me. But why do we say whales terrify me and not they terrify I? Well, that's because of objective pronouns. Objective pronouns replace objects rather than subjects. If we back this whale train up and take a look at the sentence without any pronouns, you would see whales terrify Brady, because, that's my name. In this sentence, I am the direct object. I am the one directly receiving the all-encompassing terror of the giant water mammals. So since I am the object of their demise, we replace my name with an objective pronoun. Look at the chart again. I'm replacing my own name, so I need the first person pronoun in the objective case. That narrows it down to me or us. Because there is only one person, we use the singular me instead of us, even though it really should be us because whales are huge. So we choose me and replace my name with me, and we get the sentence, whales terrify me. It's good to keep in mind that the only way we can ever really talk about ourselves is by using personal pronouns. We have no choice but to say, I did this, he did this to me, and so on and so forth. We have to use pronouns to talk about ourselves. Which brings us to reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns refer to a noun or another pronoun rather than replacing them. Think of them like the reflection in the mirror, never really there without the real thing. Reflexive pronouns all end in self or selves, and they include myself, yourself, himself, herself, themselves, ourselves, and one's self, which, yes, one's self is a word, I looked it up. Reflexive pronouns usually reflect something already in the sentence, like the subject. Let's look at the example, I hurt myself. Never mind how I hurt myself, but I assure you, has something to do with hunting whales and a harpoon. The word myself is acting as an object in this sentence. Who was the one hurt? I was. Well, who did the hurting? I did. So I'm the object of my own pain? Why don't we just say, I hurt me? Well, that's redundant. You can just replace that second pronoun with the reflexive pronoun to reflect the first one. But there's not always a clear subject for the reflexive pronoun to reflect. What if you asked your mom to make you food and she says, do it yourself? Well, what's yourself reflecting? Look a little bit closer. Do it is actually a command, which implies you do it yourself. So yourself is still reflecting you, the subject of the sentence. Relative pronouns. Think about your relatives if you can stand to, and specifically think about your in-laws if you have any. They weren't always related to you. You got a new set of relatives when you got married. Think of a relative pronoun like the priest at your wedding. He takes two different things and combines them to make them related to one another. Relative pronouns are that, which, who, and whose, and they're used to give extra information relating to what you're talking about. I can't really think of any good examples, but a boring one would be the guy who wears glasses broke his glasses. Who is the relative pronoun. It is referring to the guy. At the same time, it's relating the guy to wearing glasses. Now, there's something important you need to know when you're dealing with relative pronouns, and that's whether or not you're using a relative clause. A relative clause is extra information that isn't necessary to the sentence. If I'm talking to you about a person that you aren't going to recognize unless I mention the fact that he wears glasses, then that is essential and you need it. But if for some reason it wasn't necessary, you would offset it with commas, and it would be called a relative clause. Did you see the guy who broke his glasses trying to read the billboard? Who broke his glasses is a relative clause, and if you were to take it out of the sentence, it would still somewhat make sense. Did you see the guy trying to read the billboard? Let's move on to reciprocal pronouns. Reciprocal pronouns are used to show reciprocity. I know that's a big word, but it's a simple concept. If I give something to you, you have received it. If you give something to me, I have received it, and we call that a reciprocal exchange, the reciprocal pronoun. And you can sum up the entire thing by saying, we gave things to each other. Now what you get me? I hope it's an iPad. Reciprocal pronouns are limited strictly to each other and one another. There is no right or wrong time to choose which one you want to use. You can say, we gave each other gifts, or we gave gifts to one another, or we gave gifts to each other. Either is really fine. Just remember that each other is two words, because I forget that occasionally. Demonstrative pronouns. Once again, English throws a rather large word at us for no apparent reason, but it's pretty simple. The root of demonstrative is demonstrate. These are pronouns that demonstrate what you're talking about. The demonstrating pronouns are that, those, these, and this. When I was a kid, I yelled, watch this, and then demonstrated how many cartwheels I could do in a row. I was barefoot and ended up planting my foot in a thorn bush, which was very painful. That is a prime example of a demonstrating pronoun. See what I did there? By demonstrating a cartwheel is also demonstrating a demonstrating pronoun. That is a lot of demonstration. In those last two examples, that refers to the first sentence, and this refers to my ability to do cartwheels. If you're talking about something specific, chances are you're going to have to use a demonstrative pronoun, saying that one over there, those ones, or this one that I'm talking about, to demonstrate what you mean. Interrogative pronouns. Who is coming up with these names? Well, don't interrogate me. I don't know who you need to talk to about it, but I can tell you that who is an interrogative pronoun. Interrogative pronouns are used, if you can't guess, to ask questions or interrogate. They include who, whose, whom, which, and what. If a bank robber asks you, who did you give the money to? They're asking because they don't know who the pronoun is referring to or replacing. Just a tip of advice, it's probably not wise to tell them that they should have said, to whom did you give the money? Otherwise they might shoot you, and then the cops are going to ask, whose body is this? And the answer will be yours. Wow, that just got dark. What did I do wrong? Well, it must have been one of those examples, but which one? Well, I don't know, so I'll represent my uncertainty with a pronoun. Speaking of representing uncertainty with pronouns, indefinite pronouns. An interrogative pronoun is asking the question, what just happened? An indefinite pronoun is just saying, something happened. Indefinite pronouns are used when we are not sure what we're talking about. We don't know exactly what it is that we're replacing with a pronoun, because what we're replacing is undefined or indefinite. The indefinite pronouns include something, anything, nothing, no one, nobody, anybody, somebody, no one, and all those different things. There's a lot of them. If there wasn't a single person who came to your birthday party, you cannot call that person by name, so you must use an indefinite pronoun to represent your uncertainty and say, no one came to my birthday party. I'm coming up with some really depressing examples. I'm sure there has to be something else I can use as an example, but I don't know what that is, so I'll use an indefinite pronoun for now to represent my not knowing what it is. Finally, we get to possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns are used to show possession. Possession, obviously, being when you possess something and it belongs to you. The possessive pronouns are yours, mine, his, hers, and its. What possessive pronouns are actually doing is kind of hard to explain and understand, but think of it as replacing a word. If I were to say, this rock is mine, it's kind of like I'm saying this rock is this rock, but I'm taking the second rock and replacing it with a pronoun that represents me and says that it belongs to me. Wow, that is a lot of information. A lot more than I really expected anyway, so I guess I'm gonna have to be making quite a few more of these videos. Maybe you should subscribe, and then you can check them all out.